Welcome to our podcast. Hi, Grant.
Hello, hello. Good morning. Good to be here.
Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it
Yeah,
is,
whatever
right?
it is. Yeah, who knows?
The joys of YouTube, you can listen to this whenever you want. But I've got Grant Goad with Statewide Mortgage. I'm Chrissy DeMaracos with LPT Realty, and today we're going to talk about a great subject of what five mistakes first-time homebuyers make in today's market so that you, as a first-time homebuyer, don't make these mistakes and you have a great, successful transaction. So let's dive in. Do you have one you want to start with in particular first, or you want me to just pick it out?
Yeah, you know where I like to start. Let's start with the pre-approval, right? So that's where my mind goes, right? It's something that you see a lot advertised. You might have seen other lenders advertise pre-approvals, but if you've never considered purchasing a home, it may be completely foreign to you. Because I'm sure you've been on the big, big box sites like Zillow and Realtor.com. You've looked at homes online, I'm sure, but you really haven't started the actual process. So I always, one thing that I would want to make sure that any listener or anybody that's even thinking about buying a home is start with the pre-approval, right? Um, that's going to give you the advantage of searching for homes that you can actually qualify for. And I know that seems simple, but it's often overlooked. You'd be surprised how many times people look at houses. I'm sure, Christy, you have talked to clients who, you haven't even started the financing process or have not even had their credit checked or their income looked at to see if they can qualify for traditional financing. So the pre-approval is a crucial step, and it's really not as scary as people think. So a lot of times, people make a big deal about getting a pre-approval, like it's a lot of work and that kind of thing. Honestly, it's a simple phone call with your lender, and to do a quick interview over the phone, and then to get an application going. It can be done over the phone. It can be done via online web portals. Technology is great these days. So honestly, the pre-approval process is it's a very quick process. It should really only be, as long as there's no outstanding issues that need to be worked through, a 1 to 2 day process at most, to really get your credit looked at, your income looked at, to see if you can actually qualify for the homes that you're interested in. So that's where I like to start, Christy. So we'll start there. Number one is the pre-approval. Let's don't overlook that.
Yeah, because Zillow is great, Realtor.com is great, or any other website that can give you an approximation for what that monthly mortgage payment might look like.
Right.
That's all great and fine, which I do encourage people to do. However, you and I are working on a deal right now, and when funds are tight, when margins are tight, some of those sites give you a generic number about what
Yeah.
insurance looks like. And unfortunately, especially because we live in Florida, that insurance can drastically change what that monthly mortgage payment looks like, as well as the CDD
Yep.
can make a big difference in what your monthly mortgage payment is because that's tied into your taxes. So my point in saying this is it's great that you do that research online. However, it's really great for you to talk to somebody like Grant who can really put those numbers in to play for you so you know what that pre-approval amount is going to be, 300,000, 400,000. But then also being able to tell the buyer, okay, yeah, you're approved for 400,000, but you've got to
But
make sure these things are factored in, insurance,
mhm.
HOA, so that you're not looking at
Yeah.
a $400,000 house when really you should be looking at 350. And I know we touched
Yeah.
on this previously in our last video, so check that one out. Um, but the other thing I want to touch on and what you said was it's a very easy process.
Yeah.
So when you say an easy process, I know what you're going to say, but let everybody else know how easy your process is, to be able to get that pre-approval
Yeah.
started with you so you can do your
Yeah.
part.
I always like to have the conversation, right? That's, a quick little interview. And I say interview because I just mean the time. It's just pretty short. Just get to know each other, right? Let me hear what your goals are, what you do for a living, that kind of thing. and see if it makes sense initially. And then obviously it probably will. So then we're going to move forward with an application. And I'll either take that over the phone, or we can meet in person if you want to, or majority of folks just like to fill it out themselves online, which I'm totally fine with. And I'll review your income, I'll review your credit, make sure you have the funds available that you say you have the funds available for to make the purchase, and we'll make a pre-approval decision there. And so it should take, as long as we're responsive and I have the documentation to verify income and that kind of thing. Typically, it should only take about a day max to get you a pre-approval letter, so you can get out there and shopping with Christy, or and really, this is the first step, but I do like to take it a little step farther. And for those clients that are in situations that are a little more difficult, let's say some different income situations, maybe different self-employment situations, we do have the ability to actually submit loans through underwriting before you even go to contract. So we can even do that before you go home shopping. If you're really concerned, if someone's concerned about their income, they really want another set of eyes on it, we have the option to fully underwrite it before you even go shopping. So you don't have to take that step. Some income is very easy to calculate, right? But there are many different jobs out there now, lots of part-time work, gig work, and mortgage guidelines aren't always the clearest on how to handle some income. So if that's the case, that might take a little bit longer than a day to review. But typically, yeah, it's a pretty painless process as long as you've got some documentation saved on your laptop or able to track from your employer. It can go pretty smoothly.
Yeah, I always tell my buyers, the faster you can get the documents that you need. And when I meet with my buyers the first time, whether I meet them for the first time at the house or we do a buyer consultation, I give them the basic things that they need to think about
Mhm.
are, their pay stubs, last couple of months worth of bank statements,
Yeah,
those kind of things. Go ahead and start
basic things.
pulling those items together because this is what Grant's gonna ask for.
I'm
So
going to ask
the
you for
faster
them.
you can
Yeah,
get that information to you, the faster you can get that pre-approval. So
correct.
what are some common things that you would need for that pre-approval from a buyer?
Yeah, basic. Obviously, it changes based on what you do for work, right? How your income is pulled in. But your basic, if you work for a company, you're not self-employed, find your W-2s for the last 2 years. You'll get those at the end of every year. Send those, your most recent pay stubs. If you're bringing funds to closing, obviously, copies of your most recent 2 months of bank statements to show those funds in the account. And then your driver's license to verify you're a real human being. That's the most basic level. Obviously, if you're self-employed, we will need to review tax returns because you don't get W-2s most likely for your self-employed work if you do own a business. But even if you're commissioned for a company, you might get a W-2. We would still need to see tax returns because you would be considered self-employed because you're not on a salary necessarily. So those are the most basic things. And I love our online application because it prompts you and doesn't let you forget. On top of me reminding you to give me those documents, you're going to be bombarded with email reminders and text updates. Hey, I need your documents. And then obviously you're going to have my cell phone number calling you. I'm going to be calling you. Hey, I need to see a pay stub. I have no idea how much money you make. So those are the most basic things that we ask for. And typically those things are pretty easy to track down. So
So we're recording this video towards the end of February. So we're kind of in that area of like almost filing your taxes, but maybe a lot of
correct.
folks
Yeah.
haven't. Would it be typical this time of year that you would need to see the W-2 for a buyer for 2025, or
Yeah.
can you
So
get
at
away
this,
with it until
yeah.
April 15th?
So if you're a W-2 employee, you should have your W-2 by now, right? Most employers, I think they have until January 31st. Don't quote me on that. Typically, to send those out. So if you're a W-2 employee, you've got your 2025, or you should. If you're self-employed, you probably haven't filed your taxes yet. Some of you, like, it depends on your situation, but sometimes it's advantageous to wait to file, right? So typically we'll do the most recent 2 years. So in this instance, it would be 23 and 24. And if we need it, then we can get a year-to-date profit and loss statement for 2025 to show some types of income there. Or if you're a 1099 worker, you might have your you probably should have your 2025 1099. So at this point, most of them are sent out to employers, tax returns, just depends on your work situation and how quick you file.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
mhm.
One thing I always, before we go to number two, the one thing that I always tell my buyers is Grant is on your side.
Yes.
So do not keep secrets from him. He will find out if it is in regards to your finances.
Yeah.
So don't hide anything for him. Just be honest with him.
Yeah.
Say, I've got this situation. I'm in the process of getting divorced or whatever that might look like. Be honest with him so that he can guide you in the right direction if
Right.
there's any decisions that need to be made versus trying to cover it up, hide it, and then you fall in love with the house, get halfway through the transaction, and then something blows up and you can't move forward. So I want to
Yeah.
reiterate that again. Grant is on your side. I am on
Yes.
your side. Don't be afraid to disclose whatever you need to disclose to us so we can help you
Yeah.
get to the closing table, and get to the finish line.
I
That's
mean,
so important.
there's typically solutions, right?
Yeah.
But in order to work on solutions, we have to know about a problem. We don't, we won't know everything. We will know most things once we see credit and income and those documentations. But there are some things that might come up. So we can't really start working on a solution until we know what the actual problem is. So sometimes that hurts us. But yeah, communication up front, tell us what's going on, and we can typically find a way.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Mhm.
important for buyers to understand that because I get it. I'll get buyers saying, "Well, should I tell Grant that?" Yeah, you need to tell Grant that. That's very
Yeah,
important.
please.
Okay, number two, focus only on the purchase price. So
Yeah.
we kind of touched on it with number one, about buyers falling in love with a $400,000 home. But let's just quickly go through one more time what you need to think about other than the purchase price.
Yeah, so in the mortgage world, really, the purchase price does mean something, but the total monthly payment means a lot more because that's what we're using to calculate your debt to income ratio. So just because a house is at 400,000 as opposed to a $200,000 house, that $200,000 house might have a massive HOA, taxes could be higher, or the insurance, it could be an older home and insurance is sky high, and the monthly payments are really not that different. So, um, always focus on, not just the purchase price, but look at the other things. And that's something we'll help you with. Christy and I will both help you with finding, okay, what are the taxes? What does an insurance quote look like for this property? What are the HOAs? Those things that are going to affect your actual qualifying budget.
Talk about number three, which is can be something that first time home buyers forget. And that's where they forget about, I'm going to say the future. They forget to think about, oh, that AC unit may break or something in a year. Water, hot water heater may just all the things that could happen with home ownership. And they forget to give themselves a buffer
Mhm.
about that. So, how do you advise first-time home buyers when it comes to remembering just how life works sometimes?
Well, yeah, and it's hard to predict the future, but owning a home, does come with some work and extra expenses. It just does because now you own that property, and that property is not flawless. Even if it's a brand new home, things can still go wrong, right? Expenses happen. Appliances break. Some things are under warranty, but some things are not. So, that's why it's really important when, like we've talked about before, getting pre-approved, knowing your actual monthly budget, and making sure that that monthly number fits within your current lifestyle, right? And giving yourself enough buffer in there, not just to max out for pre-approval sake, and this is what I could buy, but really what is comfortable for your lifestyle now, and with a little bit of buffer for the future. So it's important to know the numbers, right? That's why we do a lot of work up front to make sure our estimates are good, they're accurate. We confirm the money that you have currently in savings or invested that you're using for this down payment and closing costs on the purchase. And that will kind of tell you as you're budgeting and talking with your financial advisors, okay, well, I've got this money set aside for this home. I've got this money set aside for future expenses, and just making sure all that balances. So it goes a little bit deeper, right, than just, okay, yes, you're approved. Yes, you have enough money to buy this house, but you're absolutely right. Do you have enough saved up for future expenses that are coming? Not likely to come, they will come. So just keeping all the numbers straight and in mind will help us, help you as a client up front, really.
Yeah, I just saw my neighbor in my neighborhood. Our houses are only less than 5 years old, and I was leaving the neighborhood, and before I got to the end of it, my neighbor's HVAC system was almost sitting in the middle of the road, and I thought, wow, they're already having to replace that thing, and it's not even 6 years old
Two
yet.
years old, yeah.
So even if you've got a new house or an older house, you just don't know. But I think that's where the inspection comes in, and that's
Correct.
super important so that you can lay it out. How old's the hot water heater? How old is the roof? Like all your major things to the house so that you can have an idea. Maybe you need to negotiate a new hot water heater, maybe not. But just so you know, not that we're going to talk about it today, but that's where a home warranty can come into play.
Mhm.
If you're a little bit short on the budget and that's a concern, that can always be something that you negotiate. And I think, Grant, you're really good at thinking about that. I've never worked with a lender before that. I know with a mutual customer of ours, you've talked about that a few
Mhm.
times about this buyer being aware of, what could
Mhm.
possibly happen, not to scare them, but
No,
just
definitely.
to be realistic and life happens.
Yeah,
And I really appreciate that aspect and perspective to let the buyers know because they're so excited about buying a house, about
sure.
moving, like all the things. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, we got to adult it and we got to think about,
That's right.
what could
Maintenance.
happen.
Yeah. That monthly payment is, it may look great on your budget, but then there's another line that's monthly maintenance, right? That
Yeah.
I don't ever look at, right? I don't use monthly maintenance lines to qualify a typical buyer, right? So that's something you as an agent help the buyers with all the time. It's like, okay, let's factor in this monthly maintenance. Are you purchasing a home that is gonna need some work immediately, is gonna need that new AC, is gonna need some new plumbing in the next 5, 6 years? Like, those are the not imaginary, but they're kind of the silent numbers that oftentimes go missed on a
Yeah.
transaction up front, especially with first time home buyers. Repeat buyers, they might have learned their lesson.
Yeah.
But as we're talking about first time home buyers, that's why it's important to keep that in mind. So good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. So we've talked about not getting that pre-approval. We've focused on the purchase price and what involves in that. We've talked about, forgetting to have a buffer for things
Mm-hmm.
that happen in life. So number four is a little bit out of your lane, but
Mm-hmm.
talking about choosing the wrong location.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes first time home buyers get so excited, whether it's new construction or a pre-owned home, and they get just so excited, or maybe even just tired of looking for homes in their budget, and they're just, okay, I'll settle for that. You
Mm-hmm.
look on the map, and here in Tampa, going from Brooksville to downtown Tampa, you look on the map or your Google Maps, you're like, I can do that. Yeah, I
So
can do
close.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 to 5 times a week, I can do that, no problem. And then, hello, you move in, and 6 months later, you're like, oh my gosh, the traffic on 275. Like, I am so tired of doing this commute, and you don't get the joys of being able to work from home. So that commute just is draining,
Mm-hmm.
every day. So that is something super important for buyers to kind of think about. Because I always tell them, like, if you need to be at work by 9, maybe you need to make that drive starting at 8, and
Yeah.
see what that drive looks like, and just plan for the worst, that traffic's going to get worse over the next 5 years rather than better,
Yeah. It's
and
going
make
to,
sure
yeah.
that you can do that drive, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, and Tampa's it's an amazing location. And I say Tampa, and I'm encompassing,
Yeah.
a large area, as you know, all the way up. We'll even call it up to Brooksville almost, like because that's kind of how it feels like our city climbing through Wesley Chapel and up that direction. So it is 100% important, and that is where you come in handy and help them judge that. You've got the experience. I mean, you've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of homes. You've driven to these homes in your career too over the years. So it's important to listen to the advice of a seasoned agent like yourself when somebody's making that decision.
Yeah, even if you're, a first-time home buyer, you have a growing family, and you think that, say your parents are in Pinellas, but you're in Wesley Chapel and you're starting to have kids and you want a babysitter,
Oh
like
yeah,
you need to think about how far that really is on a Saturday afternoon or a Saturday morning trying to get through or across town can be a real pain.
now,
Um,
do you factor that in when you're showing houses potentially, like at certain times? Should we go look at it at 6 o'clock, or you know what I mean? I'm not sure if you do that typically,
yeah,
or sometimes it's working on your schedule, but you know, if you do that, that might be a way to see if it's heavy traffic or not.
yeah,
So,
exactly. I had a buyer moving from North Carolina, and his new business that he's opening is in Oldsmar, and but he wanted to be up here in San Antonio, and I told him make the drive
make the
so that
drive.
you can make sure he was getting unfortunately priced out of Oldsmar.
Right. Yeah.
And he was trying to see where he could land.
Scooch
So
out a little
go
bit
make
more. Yeah.
yeah, go make that drive.
Yeah.
So first time home buyers, don't forget to think about your commute, whatever that looks like to you.
Mhm.
Okay, last one, number 5. Buying too big or too small of a home. And that goes to me goes all the way back to COVID. You just got
Oh,
in
right. Yes. Yeah.
where you could with all the
Whatever.
craziness of, the market. But now in today's market, we're talking more about interest rates than anything else, which
Hmm.
is going back to what we said originally, thinking about insurance
Hmm.
and all the things CDDs and how certain things might price you out, interest rates might price you out, but talking about a growing family or even maybe downsizing,
Yeah.
something like that, just making sure that we can never predict the future.
Sure.
You may plan to only have 2 kids and then blink and then you've got 5, so you
It
can't
happens. Trust
really,
me.
yeah,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can't really predict the future, but you just do your best.
Sure.
But what I'm seeing right now in today's market is my sellers are saying they're tired of this bigger mortgage payment
Right.
and they just want to downsize
Yeah.
to something more manageable. Are you hearing anything in the mortgage world about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, we've been in a higher interest rate environment for going 3 years or so now. And so that is a huge decision factor. And it's why a lot of sellers are not selling because they realize that even if some of them downsize, their expenses are basically unchanged, and sometimes they're even more, when you downsize to certain properties here in Tampa or specific locations. So it is definitely a factor, and it's definitely a thing that first-time home buyers should consider, not just those that own homes now and that are selling. Um, make sure that the decisions you're making aren't rushed, like you were saying earlier. Don't feel rushed that to get it. Obviously, everything on social media says, do everything right now, right now, right now. But making that wise judgment, talking to an agent like yourself, making those drives to commute and making sure it fits your family and your future family's plans. So
Yeah,
I think that's great advice.
yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
So I appreciate you taking the
Yeah, thanks.
time to do this podcast with me, and I'll put all of Grant's contact information below. And so that if you have any specific questions about, being a first-time home buyer, we would love to answer any of your questions, whether you're a first-time home buyer, whether you're just married, whether you're a veteran, maybe getting out of the military and ready to purchase your new home. We love working with veterans. We loved working with first-time home buyers. and we'll do whatever we can to answer any of your questions that you might have.
I sure will. Thanks, Christy.
Yeah, absolutely. Until next time.